Greetings, YouTube. I used to read a lot of fiction. I read novels constantly, and by the time I moved away from them, I had read hundreds and hundreds of novels. I gave away 22 boxes of novels when I finally got rid of my stuff, and I kept one box for a long time until I pared it down, and I have a few left in that box just because they're memories. I used to read a lot of comic books. I would drop 50, $70 a week on comics. And this is back when comics cost $2 to $3 a piece. Um, and eventually I moved past those as well. I still read the occasional comic, which is probably the closest I come to reading fiction any longer. I still enjoy the fusion of graphic art and good writing. Unfortunately, it's hard to find that combination. Um, I don't really watch television, at least not when it's broadcast. I have recently begun to watch some television on DVD or Blu-ray. Some partly because, in the case of like American Gods, my wife really wanted to see the series, and partly because, in the case of Flash, I really want to see Gorilla Grodd get his due. I love that character, and I've been working my way through the first season. I think I'm up to episode 12 at this point. I actually had the second already to go, so I'm hunting around for the copy of the third cheaply because I'm a cheap bastard. So far, I've paid a total of $20 for 2 seasons of Flash. Um, but one of the things I have always has always bugged me, and it's one of the reasons I left reading fiction and comic books, is the classic concept that without conflict there is no story. Now, I understand why that exists. That our everyday lives can, in fact, be rather mundane. Um, but I'm a firm believer that mundane is not necessarily a bad thing. Because the old classic Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, is also a blessing. Because interesting times can lead to opportunities. Interesting times can lead to great things. Interesting times can lead to chaos, madness, and death. And even though I may collect these and and things like this, I'm not much of a gambler. I never have been. If I've got something, I physically want to keep it until I've decided to let it go. And I don't like the idea that a gamble says, well, maybe you have the thing, maybe you don't have the thing, but you're risking some of your thing to achieve it. Never been big on that. I don't even like fate points in role-playing games for that reason. And because of the whole without conflict there is no story, you end up with a lot of stories in comics and fiction and television and such, which can be very much like veiled soap operas, a continuing cycle of interpersonal relationships that get complex, or they fail, or there's deceit, or there's duplicity, and the big wow factor of being a superhero or a fantasy hero or a science fiction or cyberpunk hero is cool. I love the trappings. I love the settings. Drop me into it, the Star Trek universe, in a heartbeat. I don't like all of the conflict between people. I don't like the pointless deaths of the innocent just to drive a story. The mad villains that destroy cities and planets to motivate the heroes to come into conflict with them. It's easier for me to handle it in films, I think, because they're a distinct quanta, and there tends to be less of that pointless drama between film. It still exists, particularly in large series, and look at the Marvel comic universe, for example. I mean, rather Marvel Cinematic Universe is huge, and there have been failures for, like, Thor's relationship failed recently, but it felt like it was just a falling out of a relationship. It didn't seem pointlessly dramatic. Sometimes things don't make it. And I don't mind it being realistic. What I don't like is the endless drama that exists purely for drama's sake. If a conflict or a gamble or a horrendous attack or event or something plays a really pivotal role in a story, I can accept it. And I'm okay with it. But when drama exists for drama's sake, just to push the story forward because they're afraid the audience might get bored with happy people leading their lives, that drives me nuts. Because I want happy endings. I want happy endings for me. I want happy endings for you. I want you to have the interesting things in life, but I also want you to have a wonderfully mundane life where you never have to live through hurricanes and wars, political conflicts, the atrocities of a fascist state, systematic oppression. I don't want us to have those things. And I'm tired of those things being used to drive stories forward because writers can't figure out how to make an interesting story where people's lives are not ruined. I want us to have happy endings. And I don't think that's asking a lot. And if the stories are maybe a little less epic as a result, I'm okay with that.